mystery, right? We always want to know what's on the other side of that wall.
It's fucking scary, I'm not gonna lie. Come on now.
First, at the beginning, our interaction with them to some sort of a higher dimensional place. Are we alone, and what happens when we die?
And now for something completely muonic.
Welcome. Space from the Deep, episode 29. Welcome, everybody. Live on X. I don't think we're live on YouTube or Instagram right now, so we're trying to gather all the Berts on X. That's where it's at. We're live. We have special guests today. We've got announcements. We've got all different sorts of things going on. This is going to be a busy episode. We try to keep our episodes to about an hour, but I have a feeling that this one might go a little bit longer. We'll just have to see how it flows, but we had a Bertathon this morning. We've got a meme competition happening. There's a lot of things to get through. But what we do know about Space from the Deep is that we like to keep it open, let the conversation kind of happen naturally. But obviously a couple of project-specific things to call out before we jump over to our special guests. So one thing I wanted to bring up first, if you guys haven't seen it, I would highly recommend going over to X, either go to my profile on Eric the Overtone or Who Is Ebert, or go to Mayur's profile and check out this 4-minute short film that he made. So basically, Mayur put himself out there in I think a way that I've never seen before in Web3. He's starting to create real, crafted, artful content with thought behind it. He sent me behind the scenes for this video. It's a 4-minute video. Pages of behind the scenes, pages and pictures and all different sorts of references and plans that he pulled together to not only tell a story, but to highlight Who Is Ebert in a really beautiful way. And he also brings to light one of the designs that he made for Space from the Deep. So if you guys were on the show earlier and you saw our basically, not the show starting soon, but the graphic before that, that's all Mayur. Head over to our profile. If you haven't yet, drop some love on the post. It's doing really well. I'm really proud to see that the post is doing well. It's all Mayur. I'm dumbfounded when he sent this to me. It's so good. So please do get over there and give him some love. Wanted to announce that first, and I won't spoil it by playing through the whole video. The next announcement that we had, if you guys haven't seen, Space from the Deep posters are now becoming a weekly thing. So it's a good excuse for us to kind of stretch on the creative muscle a little bit, to create some new designs. This episode is titled Ascended. So we're talking about all different sorts of things with our special guest, Kory Kambo. And because of that, I think that all of these episodes deserve a special design. So the way that I decided to kind of get these out there is to not only pair them with the episodes, but then to also make them mintable on Zora. So I know that Zora is big on base right now. If you guys are on Zora, if you have an account, if you have a wallet, if you have a Coinbase wallet, it becomes really easy. Go and mint one of these posters if you wanted to start collecting them on a weekly basis. I think that you could even get like a couple cents and actually mint it. I'm not exactly sure how Zora is working, but I know that I'm putting them and posting them on Zora and making them available. So that's that. And then the last announcement that I had was about the Muonic meme contest. So if you guys have been to our X, if you've been in TG, if you've been on Discord, you know that we're running a meme competition. The 3 winners of this, there's $165 up for grabs for 3 winners. So between the Bertathon today and the Muonic meme contest, you could win $100, right? Over $100 in Ebert. The meme contest winners are going to be announced next Friday, 5/22/25. And if you've seen that date circulating, you know that may be a big day. So check it out, run over there, give it a look, make a meme, and post it on the thread. That's what we're looking for. It should be really simple. There's a design guide in the download kit in our Telegram. So get in there, type Bert meme, and get to work. We want to see what you guys can come up with. So next thing, the most important thing, we're going to jump over to Rain, and we've got Kory today. Jake is out of pocket, so we are missing our friend Jake, Nova Wave, but we do have Kory Kambo stepping in, bringing in some beautiful nature landscapes, because that's where he's located. He's up in the mountains of Costa Rica, my brother. And then we got Rain, as always, the legendary Bert at that. So I'm going to jump over to the 3 of us, and here we go. Okay, gentlemen.
Hello.
How we doing?
Yo.
Looks like everybody can hear you. Audio is good. I'm getting better at the transitions. The transitions, Kory, you didn't see the first episodes, but there was muted mics for minutes at a time. There were videos off the screen. There were transitions that weren't working. It was an interesting learning experience. Live streaming is a totally fucking different game. But now that we got the hang of it, it felt like the right time to bring you in, have a conversation. Now that things are flowing and working properly. So welcome, Kory. Obviously, welcome back, Rain, as always. But I want to just kick it over to Kory really quick, just to give us a brief intro, because I can't do it justice. I mean, I've known Kory for years now, but I can't, and him and I know each other on a deeper level than you all think. Yeah, we've been through a lot of shit together. So I think that we've got some crazy stories to dive into if we want to. But we can talk about our birdathon today. We can go in all different directions. But before I rant on, Kory, if you wanted to give us a quick intro, let us know who you are, where you are, what you are, how you are. The floor is yours, and the Berts are listening.
Bro, thank you so much. First of all, I'm so proud of you, Eric. Like, I'm gonna get emotional talking about you because you're like everything you do is like out of this world, and I'm not trying to like stay on theme here, but it is, dude. World, dude. And I'm just like, it feels like a reflection of me. Like, I get to have a friend like you in my life, and that says a lot about me too. so like, I feel honored to be here. And like you said, my name's Kory. I live here in the mountains of Costa Rica on the Caribbean side. I've been coming to Costa Rica for about 13 years now, 12 years now. And I've lived here for 3 to 4 years now. Time here, especially up in the mountains, time starts to, a day feels like a week can feel like a day. And like, so I don't know, whatever. It's been a while. And I really love this place, not just where we're at right now, but Costa Rica and nature, and being this close to the jungle. And we're an hour and a half away from the beach on the Caribbean, and the culture on this side, the nature, the food, everything is just like, it's like life on steroids. As I'm talking, I got bees landing on my face. So
the stingless kind, as we learned before, the stingless kind.
Yep. Most of them are stingless. That's the interesting thing, is most of them are stingless, and they're our friends, and they hold a vibration and a frequency. And if you see bees in a certain area, they pick that spot for a reason. So, the bees are landing on my face for a reason. Something good's happening here. And what I do here is I hold space for people to come, and we host retreats here. And I serve a fantastic, unique, transformative medicine called Kambo, and we can talk about more about that later. It's a non-psychedelic, but very powerful natural medicine from a frog that lives in the Amazon. And it's changed my life, and it's continued to change mine and other people's. So I'm so fucking fortunate, man, that I get to do it this close to nature and in this space and in this environment. And so, and I've got a Wi-Fi signal that's pretty killer. So, man,
fucking Starlink.
It's a life that, yeah, thanks. Starlink is. Yeah, man, it's a life that it's challenging, and at the same time, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, what did I do? Like, like I have to take it all in and really like be grateful, and every day counts.
Every day counts. Whether you know what day it is or not. And that's a real phenomenon up in the mountains. Like, for those in the audience, you might remember, I don't know when it was, Kory, maybe like a few months ago, my family went up and spent some time with our family, Kory's family, up in the mountains, and we spent about, 10 days there, a week to 10 days. I don't really remember, but it's, something interesting about being up in the mountains. A lot of people in Costa Rica talk about vortex energy, and basically the deeper you go into nature, the more time just kind of starts to dissolve. And whether it's our perception, and I've talked about this in the past, whether it's our perception of time that's starting to kind of fall to the wayside because we're not really focused on what time of day it is, and we're just focused on kind of what what nature is telling us, or if it's that there's some sort of a dilation in time that we're not aware of. It is very real, and Kory lives there and is experiencing this every single day. So to say that he's connected to where he is would be a rash understatement. And I think that, look, Space from the Deep is, a show that is hosted by a project called Who Is Ebert, and Who Is Ebert is a crypto project, right? But Space from the Deep as a weekly show is not meant to be always about crypto. It's meant to be about life and the human experience and where we find ourselves in the world at this very moment and moments that we, hope to find ourselves in the future. We talk about everything. Rain has shared his story here. I've shared my story here. We've gone deep. We've stayed shallow. We have gone in so many different directions. And a lot of it is on the heels of the Birdathons, which are kind of these creative competitions that we run on Fridays. Today's Birdathon is about what you think the future is in 100 years from now. So a lot of people in our chat were talking about, okay, well, this is like the Blade Runner 2049 version. This is, obviously like there's so many iterations of the future that we see in media, but 100 years it's right around the corner. But the way that I phrased it is that we're on this exponential wave of evolution. And when you really think about how humans are living, I think it's important that Kory was on for this episode, because what I'd love to dive into a little bit is that we may be witnessing somewhat of a divergence in human evolution. Those that are kind of falling into the wave of a technologically driven and technologically controlled life, and those that are going in a different direction, more toward, let's say, homesteading or living with nature, trying to reconnect back to the earth. And I do really feel, since I moved down to Central America, that I've started to kind of bear witness to this divergence more and more and more, because I'm still in touch with a lot of my friends from the city, New York, which is where I come from. So I think it's an interesting conversation to dive into. I wanted to call out, too, that Rain and Kory are both from Texas. So there's an interesting synchronicity that you just never know. But I think I'm really happy that you decided to join us today, Kory. I hope that this is the first of many conversations that you join us for on Space from the Deep, because I think that these get really good. But Rain, I want to kick it to you. So Birdathon, 100 years in the future, you're a movie buff. And we've talked about 2001 Space Odyssey. We've talked about all different sorts of futuristic films. There's so many interpretations. Which do you think might be a film that kind of encapsulates it's the best? You don't have to pick one. You don't have to pick one.
No, I know. This is so hard because there's so many like different, paths, right? And it's I don't want to throw the term fate in there, but ultimately, whatever I'll say this. In human history, in history of the planet itself, there's always an inevitable milestone shift, astronomical, massive thing that just happens. It's unavoidable no matter what you do, how you do it, whatever. And I'm not saying like cataclysmic, right? I'm not talking like, the Ice Age or meteor with dinosaurs or whatever the hell, all that stuff. But to relay it to a movie, you really gave me a fucking hard one here.
Trying to tee you up for some brilliance.
I'll say this. I got it. I'll say my idea, and then because there's going to be at least two different pathways here. I'll say my idea, and then I'll correlate the movie, two movies that coincide with my idea that I have. Right? I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to do this. And really gather around. And first thing I got to say too, real quick before we start this, Kory Kambo, fucking awesome name. Love that. Absolutely love that name. It just rolls off the tongue. Sounds like a superstar or a famous actor, like a lead rock band singer or something. Kory Kambo, I'm all in for. Fucking love it. Amazing. Absolutely love it.
Hell yeah.
And definitely can't wait to dive into this whole frog thing, because that blew my mind too. So definitely make sure I don't forget to go off. I'm very excited. All right. Birdathon, man. Shout out to the birds, man. 100 years from now. So 2125. It is very important and history supports this, that obviously there's human evolution, right? In terms of, there's the basic, right? Like physical evolution. This has been proven like through years and years and years and years of study and facts, to where like, you look at indigenous people that, live on, a secluded island of the Caribbean where everything they do is in the water. Over like 200 years, the whole tribe has webbed feet, right? Like that's a great example of, physical evolution, right? It's similar to the sense of technological evolution, which is where we're getting at. And I'll just break this down in a very simple way. You have electricity, right? Electricity, discovered in, God, I'm going to get fact checked and all this. You guys know. All right, whatever. Very beginning of 1900s, maybe the very end of the 1800s, whatever. Electricity happened, right? Okay, boom. Then
1800s.
You're forgiven.
Okay, 1800s. Electricity happened, right? A kite with a key in the middle of a thunderstorm.
Yeah, that's it.
Debatable, of course, but electricity, then from electricity, right? A little bit of slow. Then you have the assembly line, mass production, right? From there, then you go into a whole bunch of other stuff. Then you go into the internet. But now, if you look at just from the year 2000 to the year 2025, the technological evolution, like Eric said, Bert, is exponential. And so to think 100 years from now, it's unfathomable, right? Like no one knows. Obviously, with the implementation of AI, right? And like the robots being made now and all that stuff, and space travel and all these technological advancements, it's very interesting. I see it going, two ways, okay? The first way, right, is, and Eric, my theory on this, but like on the original thought, how like there's no such thing as an original thought, how everything branches or stems from either an alternate, universe, dimension, whatever the hell it may be, but there's no such thing as an original thought. So, a big thing that captivates audiences, there's always two things. It's either hope or fear. Where you gravitate to it completely depends on your mental state. But so when you see movies that are massive in this, that capitalize on fear, right? You look at Terminator, you look at even the new Megan movies that just came out, you look at iRobot, it's all basically the gist is AI takes over, becomes sentient, whatever, thinks humans are obsolete, evolves, realizes it doesn't need humans, and they take over the world. Do I think we're going to get to that? No, because I lean on the side of hope. But I think in 100 years, where we're going to be, I think it's going to be two very, very, very distinct paths of evolution. And there's going to be elites per se, in the sense of the amount of wisdom they have. So here's a great example. You'll have someone like Kory, who will have already a great skill set, but will be extremely sought after. Kory, I don't know how old you are, but whatever. We'll say we'll say the combo, you're going to live past 120, 150, whatever. Kory's going to be alive 100 years from now, all right? Just for this example.
He's going to be pushing two.
Yeah. Yep. So in this, though, is that people are going to seek this. They're going to seek nature. They're going to seek earth. They're going to seek connection. They're going to seek deeper understanding of their own, mentality, right? Their own unique vibrations, their soul, etc. And that's going to be an extremely valuable, well sought after, very, 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 tight knit fabric that only very few will truly have mastered. Then you have the other side of the elites, which is going to be, the billionaire moguls who own tech. We're seeing, especially with crypto and the shift of economic currency, everything's going over to tech, AI production, NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, everything is going to tech. So tech is going to become basically the lifeblood of the industrial side of the world too. And so in 125 years, I think we're going to have people like Kory that are going to be living their best life. They're going to be helping people reconnect and to probably ascend even further, right? Because it's been proven with like traditional monks in Tibet, et cetera, that you can transcend out of your mind. Like people can explain it, people can't explain it. But to be honest, a normal person isn't going to understand it unless you do it. Mm-hmm. But I'll challenge that and say it's vice versa. You take a normal person, again, a right in the middle person, and bring them over to the tech side of things. It's like you try to talk to your grandpa, explain crypto. No idea what the fuck you're talking about. No idea how it works. No, he can't understand it. He can't understand it, won't understand it. But it'll be the same avenue in that aspect for technology as well. So I think we're going to have a very split society in 125 years. I think you're either going to be 100% tech, top of the food chain tech, or you're going to be 100% embodied in the human soul and spirit. And you're going to live life how it's intended to be. And you're going to do that. Like you see now, what they're trying to do is there's a movie or a show. And this is the final thing I'm going to bring it into. But I can't remember the name of it. It was on Netflix, but it has this thing called sleeves. And this is the bridge of it. And the sleeve is where basically these global tech elites, obviously what's the one thing, the most valuable resource of all time? Everybody knows it's time, right? You can't buy time. You can't rent time. You can't borrow time. You can't do anything. Time is time. It's inevitable. And with these sleeves, what they do is they extract the consciousness out of their own body and they import it into a new body. So it's like they're 20 years old again, 25 years old again, and basically get to live forever and ever and ever. Now, obviously in this show / movie, there's good guys and bad guys because there's people that are doing really fucked up shit with it. But I think that's what we're going to be. I think technology is a race for global elites, like Elon Musk, not a bad guy. I mean, I don't know him on a personal level, so I can't fucking say anything. But I think what we're going to see is the battle for time. The battle for time and the battle for salvation is going to be the key next pivotal point in the overall evolution of humanity and the world as a whole. Mm-hmm. So there's my TED Talk. There's my wild rant and theory. Bert or Kory, you take it and go wherever the hell you want to go with that.
That was beautiful. No, you articulated kind of exactly what I was talking about in like a really deep way. Like that there may be a divergence happening. And to be honest, I think that a lot of us who find ourselves on either side of the divergence, like there's no right or wrong path, I don't think. I think that you can go in one path and still be a good person, and you can go in another path and still be a good person. However you define good. But I also think that understanding that both paths exist is something that I think more people should be aware of. It's one of the reasons Ebert is here. It's one of the reasons that Ebert exists, is to kind of remind people that there's another side to evolution and that there's another side to the human experience. And a lot of that is rooted in the things that Kory and I talk about and the things that Kory helps people get through and understand. So for those of you in the audience, the way that I met Kory is that I went up into the Talamanca Mountains with my wife, and we did Kambo with Kory. So Kory saw us through that entire process, and it completely reframed like a movie. It completely reframed the way that I look at the world. It shook me up to my core and completely restructured my view of the fabric of what this all is. And
not a psychedelic. Sorry to interrupt, but not a psychedelic.
No,
correct?
Kambo is not a psychedelic.
He did partake in psychedelics at the end of it, and I can explain more about that process later.
Yeah.
It's all part of the process.
It's all part of it. We
Trust
did
the process.
we did 3 days. We did 3 days of rape and Kambo. And I'll let Kory kind of take us through this because I think that this is the most fascinating part. And once our bodies were completely cleaned, we did mushrooms at the very, very end of a very hard and challenging and deeply introspective week. And that it changed everything. It changed everything about the way that I look at the world. It changed everything about the way I look at family, about whether or not I wanted to become a father. And at that point in my life, before this happened, before we went through this experience, I was very much enrooted, just kind of enraptured in the technological machine. And what I do for a living really requires technology. You should see my desk. There's screens everywhere. There's a mixing console here. There's huge speakers here.
I love your desk.
It's a cockpit. So, yep. I'm in technology. I'm dependent on it for certain things. And you really can find yourself lost in that process of continuously riding the wave of how technology evolves. And this time that I spent with Kory changed that. It changed the way that I look at that. So I think, Rain, what you're saying is that I think that kind of what we all know is that technology is not going anywhere. It's only going to get more and more advanced. But understanding that there's another way may or may not be something that's been presented in the movies we know and the shows we watch and the posts we consume. And I think that it is starting to. I think that there's a real grassroots movement, not only on like socials like Instagram and TikTok, but like I think more media is starting to be created at a higher level that highlights this other path that you can take. So Kory, I wanted to kick it to you because I think that if you wanted to dive a little deeper into kind of like what we did and maybe why I am the way I am and kind of like what really changed, because you saw us through this whole thing, and to hold that space and to be that support for us was like a huge responsibility. And
it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work.
To talk about transmuting energy, this is his world. So I wanted to kick it to you. Just maybe walk us through what that was and how you set the intention that week.
It's beautiful to witness this and stay in contact with you on such a close level. I don't necessarily stay this close. You and I have a different kind of relationship than people that just come here for a week-long retreat. And I do stay in contact with people, especially when they leave. The integration process back to life is important. And it's not about coming here for a week to escape. It's about coming here for a week to really have the time and the space dedicated to you so that you can uncover what's already there. And once you uncover that, you start to realize that you've constructed some things in your life that perhaps don't serve you anymore or don't serve the uncovering that you've just achieved. In other words, we have limiting beliefs, and also we have ideas of who we should become and who we should be and who we are. And sometimes we need to stop where we're at, and we need to take like an internal audit of ourselves and go, wait. Do I still really believe that? And is that in alignment with what I want to become? And what do I want to become? And, I have this crazy idea of becoming this like guy living in Costa Rica, serving and helping people. And it's like, when I first thought that, it was like, wait, is that even possible? Why me? And so I had to overcome like these limiting beliefs, like why me? And what gives you the right? And like all this stuff. And so part of it is like uncovering yourself and what you really want in life and moving forward. So what we're talking about is the integration process. So I stay in contact with a lot of people because we become so close so quick, and we're friends. And there's that connection that gets created and that trust. And I don't claim to be like anything, maybe just present with people. And so I there's a lot to be said about that. But the thing that's like seems to be like to kind of go off of what we just talked about 100 years from now, it's like, bro, when I think about like what 100 years from now is going to look like an infinite amount of possibilities pops into my head. It's like, what if Mad Max and the Matrix, boom, and like, could it be that?
Yeah.
It could be all these things. And you're right. It's like hope and fear. And also there's like the reality of things is like, nobody really knows what the fuck is happening right now.
Yep.
And nobody knows what the fuck is going to happen in 100 years. And what is 100 years? And by the way, it feels like this last couple of months, we went through about 300 portals. And when this full moon came around, my gosh, it all got illuminated. And it's like, I don't even know. I don't even know anything anymore. And so it kind of feels like we're in this like simulation, this conditioning. I used to think of it as like a test, like you're being tested and you're going to pass the test or you're not. And it's like, nah, I don't even believe that anymore. And that was 2 weeks ago. And
I love that. Good work.
So it's like getting to witness people like Eric and hold space. It's so mind blowing. Plus this experience is so mind blowing that it just constantly changes. And I feel good about that. I don't feel like stuck in a path or a way. And I'm always open to feedback and growing and changing. And that's really what my become is this, and not a linear path. And so when Eric and his wife came, in my mind, these are two people that just got off the airplane, literally, from New York City, a place that I've never even been before. And quite honestly, I don't know if I could exist very long in. And they flew all the way to the Caribbean of Costa Rica, the land of Pura Vida, and took a cab ride to the bottom of our mountain. And now they're sitting right in front of me, and I can feel, smell, taste New York all over them. And they're like,
we were static electricity.
Oh shit!
It's like vibrating concrete at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was like, they're like, okay, so what's the plan? Hey, we know, and they're telling me all these things. And what was going through me was like, I got to slow these people down like, quick, because I only got 7 days with them. And the difference between 7 days and 7 months is not just two different timelines. It's two totally different experiences. So 7 days, I got to slow them down. I got to get them into their process, and then go through this portal of transformation. And then the other side of it, have these aha moments or not. Sometimes it's like the opposite of that, or it's like a breaking down. And then we've got to recover, because they got to get back on an airplane and go back to New York. Yeah. And I got to prepare them for that too, because I don't want to pretend that they're not going to go back to that and be like fucking raw, vulnerable, and shook.
Yeah.
And I have to kind of, it's an art, and it's also a process too. So they were vibrating so hard. And so I was like, okay, well, here's what we can do. I need you guys to start slowing down. I'm trying to put that in their brain. I really was like, I really just need to slap them down and let them completely be just emptied out right off the bat, so that we could be emptied out. And so normally I let people kind of settle in, but I think it was the first night, right, Eric? We just met. And I was like, okay, so rapé it's an indigenous tobacco that's mixed with, depending on the flavor, I don't want to say flavor because it's a misrepresentation. It's more like, depending on the blend, it has different plants that are mixed into it, and they have different effects. And the tobacco is not like tobacco that you smoke. It can be used for that, but it's a different kind of tobacco. It's wild tobacco, and it's about 10 times stronger than what you would get like in a store. And so that being said, it's strong, and it goes up your nose. So you don't sniff it, it's blown into your nose. And so it goes boom, boom, and you have this many sensations, and especially on the blend. But I gave them a particular blend that is really going to bring emotions up and out. And I'm going to be honest, I gave them a little extra. And I wasn't really trying to go this route with it. I thought maybe, usually when I serve people rapé, it gives me a really good idea. Their reaction gives me a really good idea of what can I expect next and for the next week. And so it's a really great litmus test. And so I thought, okay, I need to get an idea of where these people are at. So I sit them down on our deck, and I was like, okay, I'm going to blow this up your nose. You're going to have the sensation. I want you to breathe. I want just what comes up for you. And I also want you to just stay present. I don't want you to go anywhere. I just want you to have this experience. And then afterwards, we'll talk about it. And so I think I served Eric first.
No, you served Gab first.
Gabby. And she didn't
She's braver than me.
punch. Like, she got pretty good. But then I served Eric, and it was like, oh my gosh. Like, he started kicking. He couldn't sit up. The whole room was shaking. And it was like this for like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
And but what I saw was a really great experience of letting go. And also, like, Eric really needed that. he needed that like thump so that he could go into the next day, which was combo day, and be totally ripped wide open. And Eric's already like such an open-minded and available guy, and he's kind of gung-ho for everything. And on top of that, what I needed from him was surrender, but I couldn't just say, hey, I need you to surrender. I clearly like rip out all of the resistance. And so that's what we did. And yeah, so that was his introduction to the whole process, was yakking for about 2 hours. And I remember Eric looking up at me, he goes, is this a normal reaction?
It's like, is this normal? Am I supposed to be just on my ass for 2 hours? And I was like, if this is what Rape feels like, what does fucking Kambo feel like? This
Yeah,
created this like, oh my God, like what is tomorrow morning going to be? And it was, like he said, it ripped me open and it got me ready to just be kind of available and just like, all right, well, whatever happens, happens. And mind you, and for everybody listening, I've never done anything like this before this point. This was completely new information to me. I'd never really taken anything that made me purge. I've never done something like this before. So it was very new. It was foreign. It was like you needed someone there, like you needed a brother there who's going to be like, I got you. You're good. You're good. I'm confident. You're good. And that's exactly what Kory was for both of us, for me especially. And I think that what happened the next morning is we would do Rape before we did combo. And I was like, oh God, we're going to do this shit again. Holy shit. So we did it again. We go to the place on their farm called the Temple. It's overlooking the entire mountain range. And we did Rape one more time. And then that morning, so Kory would do the Rape. We'd sit into it and kind of like just sit into it. And just let it happen and kind of experience it, and it gets you kind of seated and grounded to receive combo. What happened that next morning was a giant, after we did the Rape, a giant bee, like the size, like this, started buzzing around the temple, and it parked itself next to my head for about, I don't know, what felt like 15, 20 seconds. And it just did an orbit around my head from one ear to another. And I just stayed
so
there.
loud.
It was so loud. It was it was like a little craft. It was huge. Biggest bee I've ever seen. Biggest insect I've ever seen. And I just sat there and I kind of like peered over at Kory. I was like, hey, this is good. And he was like, it senses your vibration. Like it knows that you're on a higher plane right now. Like something's up. And you're on a higher plane right now. It's sensing your vibration. When he said that, it all clicked. I was like, holy shit. Like, we're unlocking something with what we're doing right now. And that, for some reason, like, once that happened, once the bee came through, it just set this precedent for, like, this, okay, if that's possible, what the fuck else is possible? And it opened up this entire world of me being open to whatever information needed to be delivered to me and not trying to reject any of it and not trying to judge any of it either, because a lot of it was coming from myself. So I think that once that happened and I started to not only understand why we do things in the order of, why we do them, but also that parts of these experiences, and just to tie it back to parts of the human experience, is just being open to the fucking experience itself. Just being open to what the experience has to give you and show you and teach you. And, Kory really helped us understand that. And then that led to a really transformative week, probably the most transformative week in my life. And that's why we call him Uncle Kory, because he's part of our family, and you intertwine with someone on that level and they help you grow to that degree. And you realize, okay, maybe we've done this in another life. Maybe it wasn't in this exact way. Maybe I didn't know you in this exact place, in this exact time, in this exact, context, but I've known you before. And, it's kind of part of this crazy, awakening, this ascension of like understanding that everything is kind of interconnected. And it's a really, I mean, it's a beautiful story. It's one that I'll remember every little iota of for the rest of my life, just because it changed my life. And I think that, you know, when we think about what the future holds, I just hope that the things we make, the art we share, the creativity that we kind of encompass as ourselves, like who we are, teaches the next generation that you have options. That it doesn't have to be one way. It doesn't have to be the way that the media is telling you it has to be. That you have options, and there's a lot of learning that your surroundings can give you, and all you have to do is just listen. And sometimes you need to be put on your ass, which is exactly
Sometimes
what I needed. What's that?
Sometimes you got to get cleaned out so you can finally listen. That chatter in your head is so loud that we can't even hear it anymore. It's like living next to the ocean. Sometimes you hear the waves crashing and crashing and crashing, and oh, the ocean. But then you get up in the mountains and you don't hear the ocean anymore. And you're like, oh my gosh, it was so loud. Actually, like the ocean is like, it's forever. It's like infinite amount of waves. And so sometimes our voice in our head is like that, where it's so present always that we don't realize that it's even there. It's like, what's the saying? A bird onto the air, as a fish onto the water, as a man onto himself. It's that you're in it. You don't know it because you've just been in it your entire life. And then you don't realize that there is a contrast until there is a contrast. And you step outside of it for a second and the chatter stops for just a moment. You go, oh my gosh, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just, oh my gosh, wow. I'm really like caught up in my head, and there's so much going on in my body. And now I can hear this whole other thing that it's trying to tell me.
Yeah, it's trying to show you everything. You know, like your body is the best teacher of all. You just, like so many people, you know, condition themselves to ignore the signals and to just kind of like put them aside and to just kind of put them in their back pocket. And I feel like a lot of that might be a generational thing. Like I know that my parents never really, they never got to a place where they were like, okay, I'm going to listen to my body today. I'm going to get outside and like breathe and really try to understand maybe what's going on and, you know, just learn. And, you know, that gets passed down. So we have the opportunity, I think, to pass down what we've learned. And that's, you know, Rain was talking about the hope route. And I think that the way that I look at it is that the hope, really so much of it, and Kaiser mentioned this in our TG earlier today, is that so much of it is dependent on what the next generations believe and what the next generations decide to do. And I think that if you look at younger generations, if you look at like, you know, really like toddlers up until like 9-10 years old, like you get a really clear picture of what they like, what they're doing, what they're drawn to. And it goes in two drastic, different, polar opposite directions. Some of them are completely tied to an iPad and incapable of having any sort of a conversation up into their teens, and that develops into all different sorts of issues. And then some of them are just like, I want to be outside and I want to be playing sports. So I think that we're seeing it, you know, and I think it is happening. It's just a matter of, are we paying attention or are we not? And when you become a parent, that also is something that becomes like top of mind. Okay, well, you know, which direction are we trying to go here? You know, like, how do we want to guide our kids down a path that allows them to, you know, be open to the things that we've been open to? We can't force anything, or are we going to, you know, maybe take this other route and make things a little easier and give them technology too early, you know, just kind of sequester them away so we can do what we want to do. So you see all different sorts of flavors. And I think that it's such a big subject to really start to break down the future, because like Kory said, no one really knows, and it's almost impossible to rationalize how things evolve. But another thing was said this morning is that the only thing we have control over is how much love we give while we're here. And I loved that. I think that was nerdy. So shout out to Nerdy for that answer. It was like, there's a lot of things that could happen. We could have quantum computing. We could have this. We could have that. Rain kind of mentioned this too. The one thing that we know will still exist is how much love we have. We have full control over how much love we give. It's like the one thing that we can 100% control all of the time is how much we give, how much love we actually emit and give the world. And that is something that I know will be a part of the future. And whether it's 100 years from now, 1,000,000 years from now, who knows? But the human condition and the human experience gives us this ability to create love. And it's something like it's a dimension that we actually have access to, and that we can control and that we can share and that we can grow. Because that, when you understand how powerful that is, it really starts to give you like the 10,000 foot view of like, the future and what's happening now. And, you detach yourself from like really getting into the nitty gritty of it. So really good answers. I think at some point, I'm going to kick it over to you guys, but I think at some point we need to announce our Birdathon winner. So I have them up here. And maybe before we jump back, I'm going to jump over to our Birdathon for the day. Okay, so I got our Birdathon up. This was the Birdathon for the day. Obviously, this has been part of the conversation that's been happening. But our winner for the day is Kaiser. So Kaiser, interestingly enough, Kaiser's submissions were basically more of a conversation. And I think that the way that we've done the Birdathons has been like, cool, like this answer is the best. And because we loved this answer, you win the Birdathon. But Kaiser and I basically talked for like a good 30, 40 minutes this morning while we were getting ready for the show. And I just think that his answers were really unfiltered and real and just like honest. And I think that he was dropping movies, he was dropping all different sorts of things. And it's almost impossible to distill down like what he said. But he was saying things like, he was like, where's a good one? He was like, reality shows, Mr. B shows, movies like Squid Game says a lot. And there's also simulation theory. That's where the data collection comes from. He was just like going on and on and on and on. And it was kind of wild to like just watch that conversation flow. Because I was like starting to kind of, walk away from it and just let it unfold. And it really did. And so Kaiser, congrats. If you're on the show, you won the $44 in Ebert today. I'm going to get you in the DM. Thank you for participating in the Birdathon. We got the best. We have the best Berts in the community. They really like communicate on these Fridays. It's like, it helps us so much for these shows too, because I feel like these questions help me like wrap my head around, okay, well, what do I actually fucking believe? Like, what do I actually think? And sometimes if you ask a lot of people, it helps you kind of, turn the mirror around and say, okay, well, maybe this is where I'm at right now. And let's see where the other guys are at. So congrats, Kaiser. We'll jump back to our main screen. If you guys didn't see the Birdathon, you can always drop your answer on the post as well. It's on X. Get after it. All right. I think that I got all my announcements in. So I figured I would front load the announcements and let the conversation kind of take us where it was meant to today. We got a couple minutes left. And Kory, these conversations this feels like a really short hyphenated conversation with what we could really dive into, right? It's like, it's mind blowing. So it just, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just like, I'm so like chomping at the bit here. I'm like, what are we going to do here? Where are we going to go? And so I feel like I'm so excited to come back on here because there's so many fucking things that I want to say right now. And we don't necessarily have time for, but I feel like, man, it's entertaining and it's also informative. And I love the direction and the energy the show is going and where it's at. So yeah, man, it's really cool to be in both worlds at the same time. I have a little bit of crypto. I don't have a huge portfolio. I've got enough but you know how it goes. So, I know a little bit about the world. I'm interested in it, but I'm also here like with bare feet, like standing on my porch, like with this view. So
Grounded.
I'm in both worlds at the same time. And I see the value in both. And yeah, so I feel this like interesting bridge between the two coming together, that we can do both at the same time and respect ourselves and our growth at the same time as well. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of respect for you guys that can sit in front of a computer and grind, man. Like, fuck, I can't do that. Like, but I guess I could, but like, I was telling Eric one day, I was like, bro, I was on the computer for like 12 hours straight. And then I woke up the next day and I just felt like shit. And I'm like hungover. I was like, yeah, how do you do it? And he's like, oh, I think I'm just like past that. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you do this day in and day out? But he's also in Costa Rica too. So there's this interesting blend to see you get into as well. So yeah, I love bringing both of these worlds together. It's really, really cool. It's really supple and great.
Yeah, it's like I love the idea that like it can be a necessary thing, like technology, that route, like we can leverage that. Like the only reason that the Who Is Ebert community is what it is because we have technology. And I've talked about this before. We have access to these tools that we can use as extensions of ourselves, as opposed to something that defines who we are. You know, it's really, if we look at it as like, okay, this tool allows me to define my voice as a human being, I think that we're on the right path. If all of a sudden I become the tools and the tools start to define me, then I feel like maybe I'm starting to give away what makes me me. And I think that when you move down to a Central American country, nature is very relentless here. It challenges you in all different sorts of ways. Getting zapped has become a trope in the ECU, which is within our community, is that basically our power goes out a dozen times a day. The fact that we get through these shows unbroken, and I'm probably going to jinx it now by even just saying this without getting zapped, is a minor miracle, because the weather here is intense and it forces you to really look at what you absolutely 100% need and what you don't need. And I think that as long as you can kind of dial down and distill down the tools that you need to speak in whatever way you need to speak, then you're on the right path. Then you're doing the right things. You're thinking in the right ways. You're thinking as a human being. And I think that that's one of the big takeaways from there is no answer as to what the future holds. Nobody knows for sure unless you've got a time machine, which, hey, some people might. Who fucking knows? But at the same time, all we know is what we have control over. It's how we, use the tools that are available now, and how, aware we are of the evolution of those tools, and how plugged in we are, and whether those tools define us or not. So I think it's like you're right, Kory. It's like, I can't wait for you to come back on, because these episodes, this is a breath of fresh air. We've done, and not to disparage any of the other guests that we've had, but we need to be talking about things like this. I feel like there's a lot of builder talk in Web3. There's a lot of shilling, like people getting up on the mic and be like, okay, like we're at 10 million market cap, our supply is locked and blah, blah, blah. And, the founder only owes 0.001% of the supply. Like there's a lot of founder talk. There's a lot of selling, but the way that we've always looked at Space from the Deep, and I have to credit Rain for really pushing us to do a show and to evolve the show into something bigger. The way that we've always looked at it is, we're building a brand. Like you can't just shill a token and build a brand in tandem. Like you have to like really build the foundation of a brand. And this show is kind of in pursuit of that. So I just wanted to obviously thank you on here, and I'll thank you many, many times after for being here and for being open to coming on something that you've never even, I don't know if you've ever done like a Web3 specific show in the past. So I respect you a lot for coming on, sharing your thoughts, sharing your story, sharing who you are, where you are, and being transparent about, your thoughts. Like that's literally like the value of that I hold in such high regard. So a big thank you to you, Kory, for being here. And then also Rain, thank you for pushing me to do this show. Thank you for encouraging me to make this real. And this is episode 29. This 29 weeks of Space from the Deep spread across the lifetime, of this project. And there's so many more ahead of us. I feel like we're really just kind of scratching the surface of what this show is intended to be. What do you think, Rain?
Oh, I mean, that's I don't want to get too fired up here. But yeah, it's to keep it on brand per se with the topic of conversation. It's Ebert's technological evolution, in the sense of the show and how it grows and the quality, not only into the content and the speakers and the discussions, but obviously, and the energy, of course, always being so pure and positive and innocent and fun and welcoming, but also like the technological advancement and evolution that we're having in Ebert. I mean, it's pretty crazy, man. Like the show looks amazing. It looks absolutely amazing. It's only going to get better and better. And, you know, with a bunch of stuff that we have coming very soon, I think it's just going to continue to amplify, you know, here's the business talk, our product value, you know, our product value and create, you know, exponential interest in consumers worldwide in what we're doing and being able to own, you know, a percentage of the IP just by being an active community member. I mean, technically, the way that this is built, like you can hold Ebert and hold a substantial amount of Ebert technically without ever buying any Ebert. If you're just a diehard community, you go into every single Bertathon and you fall in love with this, you have that opportunity, you know, and you get what you give. I always say that you get what you give, any avenue in life. So no, I love it. We're building something great. We're giving a lot. We're getting a lot. It's a mutual partnership of abundance. And I'm very grateful to see how Ebert continues to scale to new dimensions and new heights.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's next week. So this is just maybe a little plug and then we'll wrap it out. Episode 30. And that wasn't fully intentional, but episode 30 is going to be probably the biggest episode of Space in the Deep that we've ever done. It's episode 30. I've plugged 5, 22, 25 a couple times. Episode 30 is taking place the day after that. So I would highly recommend, if you're part of the community, if you've been here, if you've tuned into the shows, do everything that you can. Do what Des does. He puts the earbuds under his headphones at work so no one sees him, but he tunes in for Space in the Deep every week. Do your best to get on next week and join us for Space in the Deep. It's going to be a big week. We've got a lot of really big things coming, like Rain mentioned. These shows will continue. We'll continue to bring guests like Kory on and hope that Kory comes back and hangs with us as many times as he would be open to doing, because we will have him anytime. And we will see you all next week. Episode 30, Space from the Deep. Be there. Have a good weekend. Go touch some Earth, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Transmitting live from the edge of the unknown.